Hello, my name is Tyler Misek. I'm doing my case study presentation on do host cities benefit economically by hosting the Olympics? Okay, so when looking into this topic, it's important to think about all the economic factors. It's easy to just think about the cost versus income. However, there's much more than that goes into it. We're going to take a look at all of the economic factors like profit and loss, job creations or losses, and other things like road and business closures for the event, damages to maybe buildings or streets and stuff like that. So, context, we're going to start with a little bit of background. So the Olympics date all the way back to ancient Greece, and it was used to honor the Greek gods and show strength. However, after a hiatus, the Olympics returned in a modern setting to allow countries to compete in 1896. And while many rules and stuff have changed slightly, we still pretty much use the same kind of outline today. The Olympics are now held every 2 years, and it's split into the Summer and Winter Olympics. So every Summer Olympic is 4 years apart, every Winter Olympic is 4 years apart, but they're 2 years apart from each other. The most recent event for the Winter Olympics would have been in 2022. And that was the Beijing Winter Olympics. And then the most recent Summer Olympics were in 2024 in Paris. Let's see. Okay, so now going a little deeper into those economic factors we touched on earlier. Looking at revenue and stuff, I looked at broadcasting revenue that came in from the last 6 Olympic Games. And combined through broadcasting, they combined for about $13.6 billion. And again, that was over the last 6 Olympics. I also then went and looked into the estimated costs each city paid, like how much it cost the city to host the Olympics, and the total for the last 6 was approximately $87 billion, and that would mean the average per event over the last 10 years, or the last 6 events, was approximately $14.5 billion. And we looked at that. Well, combined, they were bringing in 13.6. So through just broadcasting. And if you look at some other ways you're bringing in money, you still have to think kind of, with ticket sales and maybe the increased flow for like hotels and other businesses, even concessions and stuff. That's just a really big gap, and it's hard to believe that they're filling that, and if they are, it's hard to believe they're turning a real profit off of that. So kind of looking at some alternatives, as it's kind of hard to visualize a city right now making a profit off of the Olympics. You could look into broadcasting the event just on TV, maybe not selling tickets, and that way you don't have to close down streets and do all that stuff to bring people in. Another way you could look at it is waiting out kind of the other cities and the other and the Olympics itself, and try to almost get a better cost. And another thing is just putting more responsibility on the teams to bring their own equipment and not pay as much to supply everything you need and stuff like that. But the issue with all these, we'll start with broadcasting. If you're looking into broadcasting the event, well, they did that in 2022 for the Beijing Olympics because of COVID-19 and the pandemic, and it was estimated that the event cost about $8.7 billion because they still had to pay for everything and get the competitors there still. But they only brought in approximately $1.5 billion. which means they left 7.2 billion in just dead money from broadcasting it. So you're still you're not even coming close to making a broadcast off of the one attempt we've seen at that where there was no crowd. Obviously, there were different situations because everyone was kind of quarantined and it was just a rough time for everyone, but that's a lot of money to try to make up to cover that. If you think about waiting it out, what the risks with that is, one, you might just miss out completely. Like, there's no guarantee you get it if you wait, but not only that, there's no guarantee that you actually get a better price. It could go up. So there's really just no guarantee anything is really effective when you're doing that. And then if you're putting more responsibility on teams to supply everything, well, now you got all these teams bringing different equipment, and everyone's going to want to use different stuff. And now you have the option for more cheating avenues. And I mean, you like to think that no one's going to cheat at the Olympics because, it's all the countries coming together and kind of showing unity and competing against each other. But, you can never rule that out, right? And it could create an imbalance, especially for like smaller countries who maybe can't even afford to bring all that equipment with them overseas or wherever they're traveling to. And it just creates a big imbalance for places that might not have as good of equipment and stuff, and opens the door for cheating. So really, none of these three are good alternatives when you're looking at what else you could do. So if we look at the solution, my best idea of the solution is choosing a select number of cities and allowing those cities to build facilities specifically designed to host the Olympics. And my thought process behind this is simply, yes, it'll cost a whole lot of money to build these facilities, and but if you pick, I was thinking 13. There have been 47, I believe, different cities that have hosted the Olympics. If you take 13 of those and you pick the best 13, the ones that people travel to the most and are easy to get to and people seem to enjoy the most, that give you the best feedback and you got the most viewers and the most attendance and everything like that, and they have the space available, and with some help they have the funds, and just help them build a facility, right? I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money. But the thought process is behind it is if you construct a facility designed for the Olympics, you don't have to shut down other places, because now you have your own design place, right? You don't have to use a soccer or a football arena and turn it into an Olympics facility. You already have one. And then what you could do with it is now those 13 cities are getting visited more often because they're kind of on a cycle, and they get to host all these city events, and they don't have to put as much into hosting the events now after building the facility. So slowly they start to make a profit, and over time that builds up until you kind of make a true profit by kind of paying for the facility on top of continuing to grow money. And it would take a long time, like a really, really long time. But I think that way it's possible to turn a profit eventually. So to me, that's the best idea, is just taking, let's say 13. And the reason I say 13 is so every city will host a summer and an Olympic and a winter game before you repeat. So say Paris is the first city, so they host the very first Olympic event in this setting, right? And then 12 other cities will host an event. Well, if Paris hosts a summer Olympics, the next time they come around, well, now they're hosting the Winter Olympics. And then you go through it all again, and by the time it gets back to Paris, it's been a crazy long time, and now you're back to the summer. So it doesn't feel kind of like repetitive. The city still gets more time to do it. You have a lot of time to prepare. And then you also get to host both the Summer and Winter Olympics every however many years. And when I was also kind of thinking about it, if you add like a bail option, kind of like a buyout or something in the contract for it, well, say a city that got selected, they build the facility and they're kind of going into stuff, and they're just like, I don't know if we want to wait this long, right? Well, you let them host the Summer and Winter Olympics, and after whatever their second event is, whether it's Summer or Olympic, well, then they have a buyout option. And they have 2 years before the next event to choose on whether they want to stay a host city or get out of the contract and let another city come in, right? And then that allows other cities to cycle in, so that way it's not always going to be the same couple of cities, or at least it has an option to not always be those cities. If other cities want in and some cities want out, they have the option, while also giving time for both cities to back out. And it's not like that facility would go to waste if you were to back out, right? So you build the facility. Well, now you have all these different facilities that you can convert into stuff for other sports and other organizations and stuff, and you can still find a way to turn a profit off of it while giving other cities more time to come in, and also at least getting a chance to experience it and kind of just go from there. Yeah, that's about all I got. These are my citations. A lot of stuff I pulled was also directly from my paper.